As the CAO at 6:28 a.m. Yesterday, I got a notification that the situation was normal. Our reservoirs were at low levels, but that's just because the 2 to 5 a.m. Water cycle had just been concluded, and that situation was normal. About 9 o'clock in the morning, though, something happened. And so generally, our reserve levels, we try to keep at about 30 to 60%, and that allows us to sustain fire service delivery and sustain a pressurized system to the community. So between 9 and 10, that water reservoir level in the North Reservoir went from about 30% level to nothing. And that happened in a matter of over an hour. And so when we looked at that, if the system was working right, that would be about equivalent to 5 Olympic-sized pools of water that would have been lost from the system. So that was, this happens in water where you can have that type of water loss. So all of the staff were deployed to go and find this water. With that volume of water, should be fairly easy to find where that was occurring. At the moment that occurred, our Emergency Operations Center was activated, and the Emergency Operations Center had the following objectives. Number one, find that leak, stop the water loss, maintain the minimum operating levels within the other reserves so that the entire water system was not compromised. Ensure that we had water for firefighting if that did occur. So our mutual aid calls went out so that we had water tankers available if a situation arose. And we needed to ensure that we had water for life so people had access to what they need to live. So when that water reservoir level went down, that impacted residents in the zone 3 and 4 reservoir. So basically on the north quadrant of the city. That period of water loss, shortage, low pressure lasted from about 10 o'clock off and on for periods till about 3:15. By 3:15, we were able to put in place a process to take basically water from our south reservoir, get that over to our north reservoir so that we could stabilize those reservoirs. I want to just talk about one thing, because when we came out with that initial messaging to the community, it was about a water loss in the north side, and that's because our water reservoir indicator indicated it was sitting there at 30% and went right down to 5% and then 0, and that compromised that. And for a water reservoir to lose 30% in that half hour to an hour, it's unheard of. So at the end of the day, no matter what we seem to try to get that water reservoir up, within about 5 minutes of switching from the south side over to the north side, we could get that reservoir back up to 30% in a matter of 30 minutes. And for any of you who work in that water field, I don't, but the interesting learning for me was it's about 39 liters a second that transports from the south over to the north. So when you started to do the math, it became very clear that the indicators on our system that said the water level was at 30%, it actually couldn't have been. And so immediate calls were made to the company that installed that reservoir, installed the measuring devices. And at the end of the day, it was confirmed that the level transmitter to measure that water was not programmed correctly. So when it was saying we basically had 30% of the water, it actually represented approximately 5% of the water in the reservoir. So when it comes to informed decision making, we did not have accurate information to lead to informed decision making. So that is why the water system was impacted yesterday. I have confidence that the team has worked now and we can move that water between the reservoirs. But what is absolutely critical right now is the cooperation of residents in terms of no outdoor watering. We have a complete outdoor watering ban in place, and that's so that the capacity of those reservoirs can be built back up for two critical reasons. Number one, we have access to firefighting resources, and we can put out a fire in your home if something happens. And number two, you have access to running water when you turn on the taps. That's absolutely critical. So all outdoor watering is banned this week. Now, we recognize that we're in a unique circumstance because we have 70 millimeters of rain expected within the next 24 to 36 hours. So we will assess the impact that that has, but we do anticipate it's going to take a full week in order to get the reservoirs up.